We invite you to stay tuned for the live broadcast of the Wednesday evening Bible study of the Mayfield Drive Baptist Church, located at 271 Mayfield Drive, Smyrna, Tennessee. We will now join the service.
All right. Well, it's good to be back for our Wednesday evening Bible study. And the study guides are there at the back if you haven't already picked one up. This is Passover series, part number 2. This is going to be a bit different because it's still part of laying the foundation for our study for the Passover. Last week we looked at the Old Testament in the book of Exodus and Leviticus, which laid the foundation for the Passover that occurred in the New Testament. There was an incident in the land of Egypt after about 400 years of the children of Israel being in Egypt, and God led them out. But it wasn't easy. It was difficult. And the nation of Egypt was rendered into a quivering mass by everything that happened to them, and the fact that Israel took just about everything valuable, all their valuables with them. And there was a reason that God said to take those, because He intended to build a tabernacle in the wilderness. So the materials that the children of Israel took from Egypt were the materials that were used to build the tabernacle. That's a lesson completely within itself. That's not part of ours. But simply to say that Egypt was rendered to a third world country, and they are still that today. They never did recover from that incident. So, what else do we need to know in laying the foundation for this series? Well, we need to know the importance of the Hebrew calendar. Because if we do not understand the biblical calculation of time, then we're not going to be able to understand how and why the events concerning the crucifixion took place. So in order to understand the events of the Passover, we must know the Hebrew calendar. Our method of calculation of biblical events will be very off if we do not utilize and understand the Hebrew calendar. So therefore, we will first go over the Hebrew calendar and how it applies to our modern calendar. But it's absolutely necessary to understand the Hebrew calendar and the calculation of days, hours, etc. Now, where else to go concerning Jewish things than to a Jewish website? Okay? So that's what I've done. This information that follows, that's indented and offset, it comes from a Jewish website entitled chaved.org. Very informative website. Since Bible times, various astronomical phenomena have been used to establish uniquely Jewish definitions for the day and its hours, the months, and the year. And part of that astronomical phenomena concerning the birth of Jesus was the star. And I think I did a lesson on that some time ago on what that was. The length of days and hours vary by the season, controlled by the times of sunset, nightfall, dawn, and sunrise. The months and years of the Jewish calendar are established by the cycles of the moon and the sun. Though the months follow the lunar cycle, the lunar months must always align themselves with the seasons of the year, which is governed by the sun. Thus, the Jewish calendar is lunisolar, meaning based on the moon and the sun. The discrepancy between the solar year, 365 days, and the lunar year, which is only 354 days, was resolved by ever so often adding a 13th month to the year to form a leap year. You think this is complicated? I'm glad I don't have to figure up our time this way. In the early times of our, and I put in brackets there Jewish, because this is a Jewish website and a Jewish writer. In early times of our history, the high court, which is the Sanhedrin, in Jerusalem was assigned the tasks of determining the beginning of each month and the balancing of the solar with the lunar years. They relied on direct observation of the new moon, astronomical data, and other considerations. And that must have been quite a job. And surely there were assigned some priests that did nothing but that. I didn't see that it wasn't stated in the calendar or in this information on this website, That's my conclusion. But it would almost have to be a group of priests, I'm sure, that were dedicated to nothing but this calendar. And here's my reasoning. If there were priests that were assigned to do certain jobs in the temple, which they were, and we can deduct that reasoning from John the Baptist's father, he had a specific job to do. And he served his time doing that job, and then he went home. So there were priests assigned to every particular job, if you will, task that had to be done in the tabernacle and later on in the temple. Yes, sir. Yes. We're going to get to that. We do have some information on that. All right. The next paragraph. In the 4th century, the temple's destruction, however, when oppression and persecution threatened the continued existence of the court, that being the Sanhedrin, a fixed calendar was instituted based on the Sanhedritis. Let me look at that a little bit closer. Sanhedrins, thank you. Teresa and I said, look at that a little closer. It's playing tricks on me. The Sanhedrin's closely guarded secrets of calendaric calculation. This is the permanent calendar according to which the new moons and festivals are calculated and celebrated today by Jews all over the world. Like the original system of observation, it is based on the lunisolar principle. It also applies certain rules by which complex astronomical calculations are combined with the religious requirements into an amazingly precise system. Now, not only is the calculation of the Jewish months important, but also the calculation of the days is important. Without this understanding, we will have a tendency to calculate events according to our own modern reckoning of time. And we would get hopelessly confused if we did that and truly miss out on the truths that the Word of God is attempting to reveal to us. So again, the following is from the website chabag.org, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Let's look at the Jewish calendar date. When God, now let me pause here. A Jew, anytime that God's name is used, they will just use the first letter and the last letter. That's they're respecting the name of God. So, and I put in brackets God so that we would know exactly what was being said. When God created time, He created night and then day. Therefore, a Jewish calendar date begins with the night beforehand. When a day in the secular calendar begins and ends at midnight, a Jewish day goes from nightfall to nightfall. Sabbath, which is Sabbath, begins on Friday night. and a I have no idea how to pronounce this word. Maybe. Anyway, whatever that word is, a lamp is kindled the evening before and that's that same word, Yaretz, which is the anniversary of a person's passing. In other words, their death. Before nightfall. If the 10th of Iyar falls on a Wednesday, and a child is born Wednesday night after dark, the child's birthday is on the 11th of Iyar. Do you understand what we're saying here? It took me a little bit to grasp this. So, okay. So, yes, ma'am. That is correct. Yes. I mean, that part is relatively easy, but the rest of this is not so easy. On those dates wherein certain activities are restricted, such as working on the Sabbath, or major holidays, the restrictions go into effect the night beforehand. Then he gives an example here. Most fast days begin at dawn. And I can't even begin to pronounce all of that. Alat Hashakar. I think the CH is pronounced with a K. And as such are an exception to this rule. Now this one is easy. Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av.
Just admit they were Pentecostal, okay?
However, do begin at nightfall of the previous night. All right, let's get to the next paragraph first. Though the day and its restrictions begin the night beforehand, many obligations associated with specific calendar dates, such as hearing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, taking the 4 species on Sukkot, or hearing the daytime reading of the Megillah on Purim. Okay, we'll stop speaking a foreign language here in a minute. Must be performed during daylight hours only. And it's the reference is down there on the footnote. And we'll look at that in just a little bit. Now, what's okay. Bleh. Okay, the day begins at nightfall. Okay? But if you are to fast, all right, you're already fasting at night anyway because you're sleeping. All right? But when daylight comes, that's when you begin your official fast. And you fast until nightfall, which begins another day. Clear as mud, Sheila? Look at that, it's sort of a puzzle look there. See, if we don't have an understanding of this, when we get into the crucifixion and those events that took place, we're going to, huh? So this is very important. You know, at least we'll have a little bit of an understanding of it when we get there. It'll make more sense to you, I guarantee you, when we start on it. Now, let's look at the definition of nightfall. When a day starts and ends at nightfall, the exact moment when night and the next calendar date begins is not clear. The twilight period from sunset and that's what it's called in parentheses there, until 3 stars are visible in the sky, and I'll let you guess on that.
Hey, you're the teacher.
Yeah. Is an iffy time period known as bin hashmash. Yeah, something like that. Sabbath or Sabbath, and all holidays begin at sunset. The earliest possible definition of nightfall and end when 3 stars appear in the sky the next evening, the latest definition of nightfall.
I like the beginning of that paragraph, the twilight period. That's a good way, I think.
Yes.
Twilight zone, okay?
This is the reason why that when we get into the calculation of things and when we start looking at the chart, I peg it at 6 p.m. just to make calculations simpler. Yeah, it's iffy. And then dawn at approximately 6 a.m. All right? But now understand, those are strictly for calculation's sake on our part. The official going down of the sun in those twilight hours there is when the next day officially begins. Now here's where it gets complicated for them. A rabbi should be consulted if a boy is born during Bien Hashamashat, I think, to determine when circumcision should be scheduled. Or, if a person passes away during this time, to determine the date when, there's that word again, something should be observed. In other words, if a person died at the going down of the sun, or a boy baby is born in that time frame, then a rabbi, one of them that is skilled in these calculations, has to determine what day that the circumcision should take place, or that the honoring of the anniversary of the death of a loved one should be. Is it this date or is it this date? Okay? So you see why it's so iffy?
No wonder they had a priest that were, this was their.
Yes. You see, I'm sure, I'm almost positive that there were specific people that knew just exactly.
And with, I mean, I know they probably didn't have clocks like we do now, but the time would change depending on the season.
Yes, it would.
With the sunrise and sunset, as the days were shorter.
Yes.
That's why we got the iffy thing in there. They determined when that
Right.
period.
Those rabbis that had that working knowledge of these things were the ones that would determine if or that, or this or that.
And that, what you're saying and what we're learning, this makes it very important, especially when they would, Christ coming down from the cross and all these things are important for us to know.
Absolutely. Because according to Jewish law, a person hung on a tree could not remain there on a Sabbath day. Now, where the confusion comes in, and those that teach that Jesus died on Friday, was crucified on Friday, is because that he had to be taken off the cross and put in the tomb before nightfall, because that began at nightfall, began a Sabbath day. Now, yes, sir.
And according to this, Shabbat began at the earliest possible definition of nightfall for sunset, which means that he not only had to be dead off the cross, wrapped in the tomb before the earliest possible definition of nightfall.
Yes.
So when they said, so one of the scriptures talks about 3 o'clock. You know what I'm talking? Remember what I'm referring to?
Yes.
Refers to 3 o'clock or something like that. Then, I mean, that's like, okay, depending on the time of year, you've got to get him done. I mean, you don't have much time left.
See, that's the reason that Pilate told them to go break the legs, okay, of those on the cross. And when it came to Jesus, he was already dead, which surprised them. All right, but Jesus was already dead. Therefore, none of his bones were broken in fulfillment of prophecy. And what we looked at last week about the lamb that was not supposed to have any broken bones or anything.
And it's interesting, too, just this coincides with what Jamie just mentioned. And from what I understand, when the alarm was sounded, that particular period of time happened. I mean, like, and we'll get to that,
Mm-hmm.
things had to be done before the sunset alarm was sounded.
That's correct.
The shofar, I think it was, the shofar.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Blowing of the trumpets. All right, now one last, I trust you read the footnote there that referred back up to daylight hours only. One last quote from Chabad.org. The lunar cycle. The Jewish calendar is based on lunar cycles. And you've got a footnote on that, and those will come a bit later. Towards the beginning of a moon's cycle, it appears as a thin crescent. This is the signal for a new Jewish month. The moon grows until it is full, the middle of the month, and then it begins to wane until it cannot be seen. It remains invisible for approximately 2 days. And then the thin crescent reappears and the cycle begins again. The entire cycle takes approximately 29 1/2 days. Since a month needs to consist of complete days, a month is sometimes 29 days long. Such a month is known as chaser or missing, and sometimes 30, mali, full. Knowing exactly when the month begins has always been important in Jewish practice because the Torah schedules the Jewish festivals according to the days of the month. The first day of the month, as well as the 30th day of the month of a Mali, full month, is called Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month, and it has semi-festive status. Now, they went on and a bunch of stuff on that, And this is not so particular to our subject, so I didn't put all of that in. That's the reason you have those 3 extra dots out there. That means that something else is missing. All right, let's look at the Jewish months. Nisan. And no, it's not Nissan, brother. It's close. Nisan is the first month on the Jewish calendar. Before the Jews left Egypt, on the first day of the month of Nisan, God told Moses and Aaron, "This Kodesh, new moon or month, shall be to you the head of months." Thus the peculiarity of the Jewish calendar. The year begins on Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the month of Tishri, the anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve. But Tishri is not the first month. Rosh Hashanah is actually referred to in the Torah as the first day of the 7th month. Now, let's look at the Jewish months and their special days. Now, on your program, Jamie, you should have 2 charts. There you go. That's number 1. All right, I wasn't sure we would be able to get all of that on there or not, but I put it in just in case we could. That way those that are looking at the video, they can see what you're seeing right here. So you got the Jewish month, you've got the approximate secular date, and then you've got this month's special dates. All right. First month is Nisan. March and April. Now, and you can't get exact dates for these either, but they are approximately, and I emphasize approximately, mid-month to mid-month. Okay? There's no way that in our modern calculations that we can get exactly right. All right, so just keep in mind, these are approximately mid-month to mid-month. All right, so the special dates in Nisan is the Passover. Now, it doesn't list it here, but the Feast of the Passover or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, as we saw last week, can be called either one. They're interchangeable. It was a whole 8 days. You have the Passover. All right? That was the 14th of Nisan. Beginning the 15th of Nisan began 7 days of unleavened bread. So you got 8 days there. Okay? And the first day, the 15th of Nisan, is a holy convocation. It is a high Sabbath. The last date, which is the 21st, would be a high Sabbath also. All right? These Sabbaths do not fall on Saturdays, which would be the regular Sabbath day. All right, Iyar, April to May. I have no idea about this Leg Biomer. I think that's a more modern celebration. Sivan, May to June. Shavuot. Tammuz, June to July. There's nothing that appears there. It's hot there, yes, at that time. It is. Menachem Av, July to August. Tisha B'Av, Elul, August to September. Nothing there. Tishri, September, October. The high holidays, there's several here. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Sukkot. Shemini, Atzeret, and Simchat Torah. Then you have Marquesvan, October, November, nothing there. Kislev, November, December. You have Chanukah. I think sometimes they call this Hanukkah. Yeah. And you got Tevet, December to January, conclusion of Chanukah. Or Tevet, and then Shivat. Shivat, January, February, to Bashevet. Adar, February and March, and that's Purim. This one was established in Esther's time. When she won the freedom for the Jews to defend themselves against that law that the king was tricked into passing. So all of those are the Jewish months and approximations of our calendar. Now, I want you to add one more. Underneath Adar, write Adar I. Now, this is not on the slides. Write Adar I, which means Adar 1. This was a leap year. This is a leap month. Remember we read back a few minutes ago where the lunar calendar added up to 354 days, but yet according to the solar calculation, it's 365 days. So according to the lunar calendar, there has to be a leap year. Even in our own calendar, there is a leap year. We add an extra day into February. Whew, I'm glad I didn't have to figure all of that out. All right, and just put a note out there on that one would be a leap year month. They duplicate Adar 1. And so those days would complete the lunar cycle. All right, sanctifying the month. The Lord spake to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This Kodesh shall be to you the head of months. Now, obviously, that is not the King James, but that is the Jewish Bible in English. The reference is Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. From the wording of this verse, shall be to you, the sages deduced that the responsibility and pinpointing and consecrating the Kodesh, the crescent new moon, was entrusted to the leaders of our nation, the Sanhedrin, the rabbinical supreme court of every generation. Originally, there was no fixed calendar. There was no way to determine in advance the exact day of a coming holiday or bar mitzvah, because there was no way to determine in advance when the month would begin. Each month anew, the Sanhedrin would determine whether the month would be 29 or 30 days long, depending on when the following month's new moon was first sighted, and would sanctify the new month. This was an every month thing. So they didn't know, it was impossible for them to plan on these things. But yet, they were commanded to take place. So the Sanhedrin had the responsibility of saying, okay, this day is bar mitzvah. All right, nowadays. Yes, sir.
It's interesting that this was in there because Christ even made a reference about this coming when he said, you know the times of the seasons, but you don't react.
Yes.
And he was saying that to the Sanhedrin, if I'm not mistaken.
Jesus said, you know the times and the seasons. This is the reason why. So because they knew the times and the seasons, they should have known what he expected them to know. All right, let's look at nowadays. In the 4th century CE, that means after the crucifixion, resurrection of Jesus, the sage Hillel II foresaw the disbandment of the Sanhedrin and understood that we would no longer be able to follow a Sanhedrin-based calendar. So Hillel and his rabbinical court established the perpetual calendar, which is followed today. According to the calendar, every month of the year, except for 3, has a set number of days. And here's the list. Nisan, 30 days. Iyar, 29 days. Sivan, 30 days. Tammuz, 29 days. Now on the slide it's missing. I apologize for that. But it's 29 days. Malakimav, 30 days. Elul, 29 days. Tishri, 30 days. Mar Cheshvan, 29 or 30 days. Kislev, 29 or 30 days. Tevet, 29. Shevet, 30. Adar, 29. In leap years, and this is the reason I told you to write down Adar 1. Adar I mean 1. Adar 1 has 30 days. So that was in the leap years. Now, regarding the variable months of Kislev and Cheshvan, there are 3 options. 1, both can be 29 days. The year is a chaser, or I guess it would be Kaser. Or 2, both are 30 days. The year is Malay. Or 3, Cheshvan is 29 and Kislev is 30. The year is Kasidron, meaning these 2 months follow the alternating pattern of the rest of the months. Clear as mud? Yeah. Hillel also established the rules that are used to determine whether a year is a Kaser, Milay, or Cedron. The rulers of the perpetual calendar, the rules of the perpetual calendar also ensure that the first day of Rosh Hashanah will never take place on a Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. And I think that's the last footnote. And I dropped down to what the number 6 footnote reads. This guarantees that Yom Kippur will not fall on a Friday or Sunday, which would result in 2 consecutive days when preparing food and burying the dead is prohibited. And that Hoshana Rabbah will not occur on Sabbath, or the Sabbath, which would interfere with the custom of taking the willows on this day. Now, I have no idea what that custom was, okay? And I didn't try to look it up, I admit. So, that brings us to the conclusion. There is a note, number 1, under the footnotes. Yes? All right? Huh? Before the footnote. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I missed one. I couldn't figure out what our producer was doing back there. When Hillel established a perpetual calendar, he sanctified every Rosh Chodesh until Moshiach, in other words, the Messiah, will come and reestablish the Sanhedrin. Yes?
Is there anywhere in the scriptures where Jesus talks about coming back and reestablishing the Sanhedrin?
No, there isn't.
Didn't think so.
This is a Jewish a Jewish belief. Right. The Jews have several peculiar beliefs that are not grounded or founded in Scripture. All right, so conclusion to part number 2. If we fail to understand, wait till our slides catch up with us. Here we go. If we fail to understand the biblical method of the calculation of time, we will not be able to completely understand what the Bible is revealing to us. When Jesus died is particularly important because of the fulfilling of prophecy. With the knowledge of the biblical method of calculation of time, we can then fully understand what the Bible gives us concerning the Passover events and other events as well. I've said this before. I don't remember whether I've said it here or not, but I want to reiterate something. If we try to put our modern thoughts and our modern calculations and our modern beliefs, and we try to fit the Bible into this modern mold that we have, it does not work. You have to get an understanding of how the Jews thought, because that's how the Bible is written. And the more that we can understand about the geography of the Middle East, the customs of the Middle East, and the beliefs of the Middle East, and traditions, the more that we can understand the Bible.
Yeah, well, Joe, that's why I emphasize, even in our Sunday school class, I mentioned that you have to get not only in the mind of the writer, but you have to get in the mind of those that he's taught, the Jewish people.
That is correct. Right.
And even though that the areas that we're talking about Jewish,
Yes, sir. Absolutely. That's the reason I've been a stickler for biblical geography and biblical customs and traditions. Because without an understanding of those, we will not have a proper understanding of the Scriptures. We have to put ourselves in their shoes, so to speak. And it takes some study.
Doesn't make them not relevant to today.
No.
By doing that.
Correct.
I think that's what I was mentioning Sunday, before we had business meeting, about the high priest. You've got to see how they were seeing this.
Right. Yes. All right, any questions, comments?
If anything, it helps us actually keep it more relevant to us today by putting ourselves in the mind of the reader
Yes.
that it was being written to and the mind of the writer who is writing to that person.
Correct.
Yes.
That's correct. When you have an understanding of that, then you can have a little bit better understanding of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They each wrote to the first three anyway, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, wrote to particular audiences. Okay? And then John was just John. The simplest. The book of John is the simplest book in the Bible. Easiest to understand. All right. No further. Brother Bernie, would you dismiss us, please, sir?
You've been listening to the live broadcast of the Wednesday evening Bible study of the Mayfield Drive Baptist Church in Smyrna, Tennessee. We invite you to tune in at the same time next Wednesday evening for another live broadcast of the Wednesday evening Bible study. We would love to see your comments regarding this broadcast. You may email us at imbr@imbmpodcast.com. That's imbr@imbmpodcasts.com. Or you may write to us at International Missionary Baptist Radio, P.O. Box 1676, Smyrna, Tennessee 37167. That's International Missionary Baptist Radio, P.O. Box 1676, Smyrna, Tennessee 37167. Thank you for listening, and may you have a blessed day.